Doom Patrol Season 4 Episode 9 was not at all what I was expecting, because I definitely did not think we were getting a musical episode this week. I mean, Doom Patrol is the kind of show that would have something like this because it's so kind of odd and fits with the weird tone. It wasn't half bad, and it didn't really like overtake the episode as I thought it was going to be, and there's also almost an hour long of musical mixed with other stuff, which was pretty interesting, and again, it fit with the show, so I think it ended up working in the end. Also, I kind of wonder if all the actors were singing, because they did a great job, and they didn't sound that bad. And you know, surprisingly, with all the musical stuff going on, there was actually a deeper story with everything, dealing with all their trauma, and I think it did a great job. Like, this episode was really interesting to say the least. The musical part was catchy in some ways and just decently odd. They used the music to really push the story along and talk about each character's kind of thoughts and attitude at the moment, which I thought was really done well, and the way they had Rouge snap out of it was also really interesting, showing that she's kind of their secret weapon because she's able to sense when Immortus rewinds time, and now she can sense that they're in this alternate reality where Immortus has made everything a musical. And like I said prior to this, the actors sounded great and the singing actually progressed their story, which something in a story like this, I was not expecting that to exactly happen. I was fully assuming that it wouldn't do that, and that it would just be kind of this off-ended episode where there's a musical and we'd go about just singing along. But the show does a really good job at pushing these characters' trauma to the forefront, having them move past it or run away, and just showing where they're at in the story. Even doing weird stuff like this. Like, it gave Rita the realization that she doesn't want the spotlight anymore, and realizing that every time she tries for it, it's kind of pathetic and it doesn't make her who she is. Even Dorothy wanting to live in the real world again because she realizes that this alternate reality is like a prison, and she's over 100 years old, and all she's ever really known is the prison and hasn't really ever experienced what life could be. We also had Vic getting more inspiration for his being a true hero, and it's really pushing his story along these last couple episodes, and I think this episode did a great job at showing him where he wants to go and kind of realizing he wants to be a hero once again. So it pushed these characters forward, except Cliff. It kind of made him go back again, where he's still so focused on being with his daughter and his grandson that he's not really looking out for the people around him. He's kind of thinking really selfishly. To be fair, he never really got that life he always wanted with his daughter because he got turned into a robot and she thought he was dead. So it's interesting to see what they're doing here. Like I said, the last two episodes, I do think that Cliff is going to end up doing like this self-sacrificing thing, because that'll be his selfless moment where he saves everyone around him by sacrificing what he wanted in order to protect the people he cares about. And this episode just continues to push our characters forward, testing their limits to where they can really handle the traumatic experiences they've been through and how their mental health is, because none of it's that good. And I think this season will end with the team being a proper superhero team as they realize what their roles are in this world and they learn to overcome everything they've been through. And I can't wait to see how that goes down. Now, for the breakdown of this episode, because that was pretty much the review talking about how it was and how it went. In this episode, it was another reality pretty much, where it was a never-ending holiday with Immortimas, which is a play on Christmas. Immortimas, Christmas, I mean, it makes sense. Everything from the decorations to the way they were acting definitely felt like Christmas. They definitely dropped in a little bit of Thanksgiving in there, because near the end they talk about what they're grateful for. For an episode that dropped in October, kind of odd that we have Christmas, but that also might be the fact that everything was delayed. And during all this Immortimas spirit going on, we had some decorations that kind of look like characters we've seen before. Like the purple one looked familiar, couldn't really tell who exactly it was, and I feel like it's a possible reference to Casey's father, Torminox, because he was purple, and Casey was heavily in that scene, so that's my best bet. If you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments. The other one was the dinosaur, and I'm thinking that's more of a nod to Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man, who we have seen in past seasons, and I think the dinosaurs were just a reference to him. Even when Cliff was going through the movies, which I think we all know at this point by his scene was a corno, and I'm not going to say the full word because I don't know if I could actually properly say that on YouTube without getting in trouble. But I think it's funny that each movie was pretty much a Christmas reference. I was having a hard time figuring out what movies they all represented, but let me know if any of those are references to movies you can think about off the top of your head. Now, like I said in the beginning, it's interesting that we had Rouge be the first one kind of realize that they're in an opposite world by getting flashbacks to the time that when she came to the present timeline, she knocked Isabel into the time stream and then remembers all the bad shit she's done over the time and what she's done to Rita, kind of making her be the one to snap everyone out of it by making them recognize who they are after seeing that the movie that Cliff was watching had a little bit of a weird pause that showed Larry in his full bandages, which ended up being those tapes were all the tapes that Niles had on the Doom Patrol while they were talking about the traumatic experiences and what they were going through as he tested them. And I just like when she did finally snap out of it, she's just like, what is going on, and started talking while singing, kind of showing that this singing part of the reality is something that's kind of forced upon you, and even if you're just talking, you're still singing. This scene set up interesting stuff too, with the Doom Patrol kind of coming to realization who they were, because Cliff doesn't want to leave. He's finally human again. He can touch, he can feel, and he's not this robot with Parkinson's. So I think that was a really big interesting thing for his character, because that's why he wasn't really pushing forward, thinking to himself, I have everything here. It might be this shitty reality kind of run by this crazy person, but I can be with my daughter, I can be with my grandson, and I can actually touch them, and I'm human. So it's something for him to overcome. And then we have Dorothy as well, kind of not wanting to leave this new reality either, because she has her family with her. The Doom Patrol are closer, and it feels like something she's always wanted. She's a traumatized 100-year-old kid who hasn't really learned to be herself. She just is trying to cling on to anything that makes her feel like she has people close to her, because she's lost her father. So really interesting what they did there. And then when they got to Rita snapping out of it, they did some stuff that I was expecting and also wasn't. Like the part where she talks about how she didn't want to leave the world because in this world she doesn't feel like a monster, which is true, because she's always kind of felt that with her elasticity powers and turning into a blob. However, that was just her trauma response to everything. And when Rouge turned around and said, you were never a monster to me, and Rita turning around and saying, that's because in this friendship you're the monster, like I thought they moved past this after they got drunk, but I feel like again this was just another trauma response to everything that's going on. Rita's still kind of freaking out about her being a monster, and in this reality she's not, where by the end of the episode it looks like she kind of comes around to that, where she does side with the people wanting to leave the reality. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen going forward with her and Madame Rouge. And when we talk about all the singing as well that happened during this episode, each singing section kind of develops some of the characters and where they're going to go. Jane and Casey singing, and a lot of their singing was definitely tied for them liking each other, possibly developing a relationship in the future. They don't know each other that well yet, but there's like this little connection that they're setting up for something in the future, and they're definitely teasing that going forward. And then you have Vic singing about trying to figure out who he is, what his place is in the world, and wanting to be something more, and definitely diving deep into what his true purpose will be as a hero. He's going to be some different type of cyborg. He won't be the same cyborg he once was, but maybe more human with parts that make him still a hero. Cliff, like I said before, he went through a lot this episode. Dude finally gets his body back, not a robot, he can touch, he can feel, and he even got to hear Rory's baby mumbling by calling Clara, kind of showing that he has everything here. He's not going to lose it. Then he sees himself as a robot, starts singing about the fact that he can touch everything, and even knowing Isabel's evil, he doesn't really care. So again, just another step in the wrong direction for this character. It makes me feel like he's going to sacrifice himself, because it feels like the only direction for this character to go at this point in time is sacrificing himself to save the people he cares about. And also poor Larry. He finally in a reality, we get to see Matt Bomber. He is not in bandages. He's not this radiated person. He is a human being who gets to be in his relationship with Mr. 104. But in the end, he has to lose that humanity he feels like he now has in this moment, because he has to save the world. It's never going to work if they're in this alternate reality run by this powerful evil god. And they kept stating in their sing-along, they were talking about being experiments and their love and everything, which was symbolizing just kind of what they've been through. We got one person who's kind of the periodic table, and then you have this man who is full of radiation who cannot take off his bandages or he'll kill the people around him. So just showing what they've been through and kind of their events as well. And they kept saying chemical romance, and the first thing I thought about was the band My Chemical Romance. I don't know if that's actually a reference to that, but it's definitely the first thing that popped into my mind. Now, the ending to Immortimas was interesting because of Isabel showing up to the house, but also having everyone kind of split on what they want to do, where some people want to stay in the fake reality because they kind of get to be who they are, like Cliff, but then having other people like Vic and Rouge who want to leave. However, this also just kind of showed how powerful Immortus is by being able to force these characters to move, snapping them into places. Like I said in the last episode, Immortus is definitely like this omnipotent god who has all these freaking powers. It doesn't seem like it's very limited, rewinds time, can change reality, can put people wherever. They are pretty freaking strong, and it's definitely a change from the comics. However, I like the fact that during this scene, Rouge was the one to kind of break character and insults Immortus, which just pisses her off. And I like how you kind of had Immortus do like a force choke on Rouge. Pretty sure that's a Star Wars reference, but also anytime you do like the force choke, it's always gonna feel like a Star Wars reference. But I love the fact that Rita backs up Rouge, because in the moments before, you had Rita seeming like she didn't want to leave the reality. She hated Rouge, she kind of insulted her, and then her to back her up and be like, Immortus thinks that she's all powerful and all knowing, and Rita can only knows this because that's exactly what she wanted to be, but not anymore. Telling Immortus that wanting to be all powerful is a sad, lonely, pathetic existence, which just pisses off Immortus, of course, making her ask everyone if they agree, kind of splitting the group some more, where Cliff praises Immortus because he doesn't want to lose this new feeling he has, and thinking selfishly, which then you have Dorothy saying that she agrees with Rita, and coming to the realization that Immortimas is just another prison. And I think this is where everything kind of shows where these characters are going, because Dorothy, she's never lived in the real world, she's never experienced it for herself, and she wants to. Casey agreed with Abigail because of the fact that she came from a comic book and she got to experience the real world for a short time, but to become a true hero, she needs to experience that real world. Having Mr. 104 want to leave as well because he wants to be able to write his own story. He doesn't want people writing it for him. He wants to have his own life, something he can do. And then we have Vic wanting to leave because he wants to be a hero. Then Jane saying, "F you and Immortimas." I'm kind of surprised that the only thing Immortus did here was throw a tantrum, force everyone to dance in her sing-along, mostly because Immortus is just mad that she fixed everyone's problems and they made it all about them, which Immortimas was literally all about Immortus. So again, showing that Immortus just wants the spotlight. They don't want anything else, and they don't really care about anything except being the one in the center of attention, which I can't tell if this is going to be just Immortus or if that's just Isabel being like, I want the attention, I want the fame and glory. And also the song was kind of a mix of the Doom Patrol theme, which I thought was done really well. But then at the end of the things, they go back to the real world and they have a signed autograph from Isabel that says, "You're doomed," which just means a bunch of shit's about to go down. I mean, we have episode 10, 11, and 12 that are coming, and they still have to deal with the butt apocalypse. So something in these next 3 episodes have to lead from them beating Immortus or beating the butt apocalypse. So just a lot of shit's about to go down, and it's really interesting because there's a bunch of plot threads they need to tie up too. They need to figure out what's going to happen with Larry and Keeg, potentially blow up and kill everyone. Cliff has to deal with a lot, and I still think he's going to self-sacrifice himself. Jane has to find the underground and get back to all her personalities, and Vic needs to become a hero once again. So I feel like there's still a bunch of things to happen, and with 3 episodes left, I'm really wondering how they're going to wrap it all up for the 4th and final season. But let me know, were there any Easter eggs or details that I might have missed that you spotted, especially when it comes to those movies, because I still have no idea what some of them are. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my Doom Patrol breakdowns, as well as my Marvel ones for Loki and my anime reactions as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week when we watch episode 10 of Doom Patrol.